Hi guys, it's Miss Speaks. This is the introduction to Morphemes video. It's a short video screencast of a PowerPoint that will enable you to fill in the blanks on your guided notes. What are morphemes? First of all, what are morphemes? Well, a morpheme, as you see on your paper, is a noun, and it's a meaningful linguistic unit consisting of a word such as man or a word element such as ed and walked that cannot be divided into smaller meaningful parts. That's a lot of words on your paper. Let's take a look at the pieces, the definition pieces at a time. A meaningful linguistic unit, linguistic, that means language. A meaningful language unit, part, small bit, consists of a word such as man, or a word element such as ed and walked, and you can't break it up into smaller parts where it means something. There's no more smaller meaningful parts. In other words, the D in the ed doesn't tell me anything. But if at the end, that dash saying it's at the end, the ed at the end of a verb tells me it's past tense. It's something that's already been done. So the morpheme tells me something, and it can't be broken any smaller or it will lose its meaning. Morphemes, in other words, are parts of words. They're parts of words. There are three kinds of morphemes. Prefixes at the beginning of the words. Prefixes always come at the beginning. Pre is a morpheme that means before. If I say prefixes, you're probably already thinking of suffixes. They usually go together. Suffixes at the end of words. And then the one in that middle blank, those are root words, the main part of the word. So prefixes, root words, and suffixes are all types of morphemes. In fact, instead of saying we have a prefixes, root words, and suffixes test, we just say there's a morphemes test. It just makes it a little bit easier. So what are they again? They're parts that have meaning. Morphemes have meaning. And it's something like, for example, pyro meaning fire. Okay, if pyro means fire, I could just give you the word pyrotechnician as a vocabulary word and you just know that word. But if you study pyro means fire, you might have an idea of what a pyrotechnician does, but you'd also be able to figure out what a pyromaniac is. So instead of learning just one vocabulary word, we're learning these little parts that can be attached to different words and help you out. Knowing the meaning is what's important. Knowing the meaning is important. If you know what that little piece means, then that will assist you. So that's why we're looking at these. And you will have regular tests on the meaning. Regular tests on the meanings of morphemes. So why study morphemes at all? Why don't I just give you a vocabulary list of words and say, that's it, that's your list of words? Well, they help you figure out words you don't know in all kinds of contexts. On the EOG or any other standardized test, on your quizzes and tests in school, when you take tests and quizzes and come across a word, there are a lot of morphemes that could come up in those words, and it might help you to perform better. Also, when you're reading your textbooks, science textbooks are full of morphemes. History is too, and when you get into taking foreign language and words that prepare you for the SATs, they often have these root words and prefixes and suffixes. So they'll apply in a lot of places rather than just a specific list. Of course, when you're reading a novel, that always is a possibility too. You come across words in your independent reading or in a book you're reading for fun or with the class. Those meanings, knowing what they are, will help you read more fluently and know what those words are without having to stop and wonder. So I mentioned morphemes tests. What about these morphemes tests, Ms. Speaks, you're mentioning? I know we've done something similar, but what about your tests? First of all, mine are always announced ahead of time. The tests are always announced ahead of time. I will not pop quiz you on morphemes. So you'll know what morphemes to expect and when. But that may not impress you, so how about this? You have all the information in advance. All the information in advance. I'm not going to withhold any information that you then have to be surprised with. You have a copy of the test with all the answers. I defy you to go ask one of your other teachers for a copy of the test with all the answers ahead of time. You're going to know what morphemes are on there, what information the test needs to include or will include, and all the answers to it. Of course, all that leaves for you is to make sure that you study. You've got to study and be ready to go. If you don't study and you do poorly, you may retake a morphemes test. There are a few rules about that, though. I used to have the rule it had to be below an 80. I've removed that rule. So you can write score below 80 on the test, but then you can cross it out because I've removed that rule last year. Get the original Morphemes test and complete a request to retest. I can get you copies of those. Let me know how long you studied before and what you're going to do differently. Otherwise, the next test won't go any differently. Schedule a time with me before or after school or during lunch to retake it. You need to come see me and say, I have a request to retest. I've completed it for this Morphemes test, and I want to take it Wednesday at lunch or something like that, so that I can get you set, ready to go. And the last one, retake this within 5 days of getting the Morphemes test back or the score back, because you're not allowed to say, do poorly on Morphemes all quarter long, and then the week before grades close, sit down and take all the tests. It needs to happen as you are noticing you need to take care of the grades. I believe that's it. I hope this helps you understand better understand what morphemes are, why we study them, why we do them instead of lots of other regular vocabulary lists and things that other classes do. See me with any questions or put questions in the comments on Emoto, and I'll see you tomorrow.